Hey listeners, as promised, Sean Kearns is producing and starring in his very own, very cool podcast. He's partnered up with snowboarding filmer Clayton Larson, and the project is off the ground. They've got a couple episodes out, and many of you have probably already listened, and many of you are probably like, what? How do I listen? Well, you can go to wherever you download your audio and search KRNS, or go to KRNSCAST.com, KearnsCast.com. You're not going to see a lot of advertising on social media. We talk about that in the show. I'll also be putting a clip from his JP Walker episode at the end of this, so you can just keep listening and hear some of what he's got going on. It's fucking amazing. So Sean and I talk about a bunch of shit, including his new podcast. And we do talk about political correctness. Can I just say here and now, over the years, I've had to make lots of decisions over what language is too offensive for a show called The Fucking Rad Snowboarding Podcast, which sounds dumb, but I find I don't like the casual use of gay to mean lame, even though I grew up saying that, and I recognize that I'm just being a hypocrite because I don't mind people using cocksucker to mean asshole, even though essentially that's way worse, you know what I mean? I get weird around words that have been used to marginalize groups of people. So that includes all historically racist words. And I haven't found an effective way to tell my friends and people I respect that I'm uncomfortable when they use language that makes me cringe, probably because on some level I relate to trying to make people laugh by making them uncomfortable. Why am I saying any of this? My theory is that you guys, the listeners of this show, represent a group of very cool people, okay? Probably the kind of people who can lead a discussion in a room full of friends about choosing not to hurt people with lazy language. That's probably a fair assumption. But like I said, I don't have that idea of how to address this topic fleshed out. I just know that I'd like to encourage us to lead the charge on this. I think it's fine to speak however the fuck you want to speak as long as you're not hurting other people. And I've been working on it with Sean because Sean crosses a line for me personally sometimes, and I always get the feeling that he's open to influence from sound logic. However, the more I push back with him, the stronger he resists. But I found some audio, which is actually from the intro to his podcast episode with JP, that really sums up what I've been trying to get him to say.
This is actually an important topic that I want to talk about just quickly, is political correctness or being non-politically correct. And we're actually going to do a whole episode on it because it's actually really important. So this interview was shot actually a year and a half ago, I think March 3rd, 2018. And I noticed that when I listened to it again, there was, I'm describing this therapist and I'm describing her like, well, you'll hear whatever, but I describe her as being, I think, fat or bad style and whatever. And I would say that that could definitely be considered politically incorrect. And it could also be like, I'm not aiming to be politically incorrect, and I'm not aiming to be politically correct. What I'm actually aiming for is to be Sean correct. Like what's okay with me. And I actually believe my body will tell me. And, you know, at the time back then, I think I was pissed. And now I'm like, when I listened to it, it felt gross. Like my body, I felt shitty. I was like, oh, that didn't feel right. Like what's that about? And it was like, oh yeah, you actually do give a shit. Like I actually do give a shit about people. And I actually think that like, oh shitty, if someone heard that and they are overweight or have bad style, whatever that even means, that they might hear that and hurt themselves with it or get hurt, or that think that I'm saying that, oh, if you're overweight, you're not worth anything and da-da-da. And that's not what it was. I was just being reactive because I was still pissed because I was scared when that shit went down. So yeah, I just want to say that. And then basically that incident really was one of the major catalysts for this podcast, is to, you know, educate people around going out and getting help or working on themselves, and you know, how vulnerable of a place that can be, and to be treated as such. So if I was to go back in time and actually take that exact same instance and say to JP, telling him the story of what I know now, is what I would actually say was, man, when I was talking to this therapist, I was so scared. And by that time, I had tried everything in my power to try and get out of this depressive state. So I had done tons of yoga, tons of exercise, tons of gratitude, breathing courses. Like I just was tapped out. And so I think I was so terrified that I was going to be stuck like this the rest of my life that I was actually like looking at everybody and everything under a fine microscope to see if this person could even see that this is the work that I've been doing on myself. Because this person didn't. They were just like, you have a chemical imbalance, blah, blah, blah. So, and it actually was the best thing that happened because I kept looking and then ended up coming across, I did find someone who actually walks the talk as far as a way of that I would like to live my life. And that was Paul Chek. And when I finally worked with Paul, and he was telling me stuff about myself, I could actually listen because I was actually looking at him and I could relate to him because I'm like, okay, this guy actually sees that I've been doing all this other stuff, which is also very important. And then he was able to tap in on, okay, there's this one thing, and we can talk about that another time. But that's pretty much the gist of it. And actually this podcast it's pretty cool. It's getting me to like, I had this thing that I'm, if I'm not politically correct, then I have to be politically incorrect and I have to say stuff that pisses people off and I don't give a fuck what I say and fuckity fuck. And it's like, actually, that's not what I want to do. What I actually want to do is, like I said, be cool with me. And that's the only person I can, and like how I actually like to be is like to educate myself a little bit and learn. And I'm actually curious about learning about language and millennials and all this stuff that's going on. So anyway, here's me very much not trying to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect. And also, yeah, when I catch myself with stuff, I want to own it and do something about it.
All right. So the language on the show will continue to represent the way I speak with snowboarders when I meet them. And my main goal with this particular episode is to make sure that you hear what Sean says about doing stuff and about his philosophy, because I believe that Sean Kearns is on the right path to helping a lot of us get out of some funks that we can get into and avoid that trap of, pharmaceutical painkillers. And I'm not 100% trusting of the pharmaceutical companies and what they're peddling to us. So neither of us are doctors or are acting in any kind of professional capacity, and you'll know that once you hear this fucking interview. It's just two snowboarders talking about everything except snowboarding, essentially. Okay, so I hope you're having a great summer, and hello to our listeners in the Southern Hemisphere that are in their winter season right now. I'm working on getting the sponsors to pay me some cash this year so I can do a little traveling, get some snowboarding in with some all-time pros, and go record the best interviews with the best snowboarders on the planet. That's my goal. And as always, I'm talking about sponsors like Vans snowboarding boots, Wired snowboards, Dakine outerwear, gloves, and accessories, Anon goggles, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC, Grouse Mountain, and of course, as always, Crow's Nest Barbershop. Congratulations to John Roth. He just had a kid the other day. Couldn't be more stoked for you, bro. He also cut my hair, which is a little less important, but first haircut I've had in 2 years, and it looks great. My wife loves it. My kid's getting his haircut at Crow's Nest all the time, which is sick. So if you live near a Crow's Nest barbershop, get your haircut there. Support rad people. Love those guys. Also, at the end of the show today, I'm going to give you a chance to win a custom-made wired snowboard designed by you and manufactured right here in Vancouver, BC by Rob Dow, Pepe, and the Wired crew. So, again, after the show, chance to win a wired board. Okay, here's my interview with Sean motherfucking Kearns.
Yeah, okay. You want me to say it?
Yeah, just say it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can figure out that. Are you recording?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is an afterthought, and fuck, I wanted to say this. I just used the N word a couple times, and I've also heard this stuff about white privilege. And what I got to say about this is, dude, you don't know what's going on for another person. And I've had some stuff happen to me that if there was a person who thinks that I'm a white privileged male, I guarantee you if I told them actually what physically happened to me, they would not be calling me a white fucking privileged male. And they'd be go, how the fuck are you still alive? Because I've been through some fucking shit. And I'm not talking about smashing bottles on your head. I'm talking about shit when you're a kid and you're innocent. So, yeah, I am right now a white whatever. And fucking dude, don't ever fucking assume you know what's going on for another person. So I just want to say that because I get pretty fucking pissed off about, and we all do it. Project on each other. It's what we do.
Oh,
and
totally.
So, and I do it. It's like, yeah. So anyway, I wanted to say that, and you can squeak that in if you want, but all right.
It's there. There's Peter's number.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, peace. My thing has been forever, like being a director and a producer, is promote other people and don't promote myself. So that was like a pretty hard transition to make into like, oh yeah, okay, now you're the talent, especially when I hate people that talk. It's like, okay, talk's cheap. What do you do? So then there's also this other underlying thing about like podcasts, like, shut up and go do it, So,
sure.
And now what I've learned is that, and figured out that actually to hear what other people have gone through, that can be like a catalyst to get someone to do something. And we are not going to finish this podcast without me talking about something that someone can go do, because that's my new thing. So it's evolving. Like I think I've shot probably 12 episodes over 3 years and all over the map, and we've just released 2, and it's turning into something like every time I even think about it, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd done that and this. So it's going to evolve into, I don't know, finally someone probably throwing me in jail or something. I don't know.
What's been the hardest so far?
That jump to being the talent versus the producer and director. Like I've always just been, a long time ago as a snowboarder, but that was years and years ago. And then I did 20 years of making movies, grabbing guys by the shoulders and putting them in spots and then saying, hey, do this, your arm flap, do that.
Right.
And so the hardest part was recognizing that, I was just beating the shit out of myself. Because like I just said, I can't stand people that just talk. And then for 3 years, I talked about making a podcast, but I didn't do anything. So I was like, you fucking loser. You don't fucking do what you say. You fucking blah, blah, blah. So the hardest part was that. And that's pretty funny because that was self-induced. And I put a bunch of money into hiring studios and branding and all this shit, like just trying. It just wasn't. That was the hardest part, was the period. And I'm glad I did because it was painful. And then the best part was Dano was helping me for a while. But then I bumped into, through Dano actually, I bumped into Clayton Larson. And for some people who don't know, he's a snowboard filmmaker, editor. I think he did all Sandslone's
like the sandbox stuff?
But anyway, it's just crazy, dude, because the first time that I ever talked to him on the phone was about something completely different. And he's like, wait, what are you up to? Wait, what? And then the next time we talked, he's like, dude, I'm a podcast guy and I want to create a podcast, except I need a you. Right. And I'm like, oh, well, that's funny because I need a you. And I said to him, like, dude, I like, honestly, I think I've dumped 60 grand into this thing, like in producers and time wasted, messing up ideas, podcasts. And then when this guy came along, I could just tell, I was like, I've dumped so much money in this right now. I can't pay you. And he's like, dude, fuck that. Let's just go. That was it. Like, he's committed and I'm committed. And then we've started running, and it's been awesome. So that's been the best part. It's like almost made the whole 3 years prior worth it.
Yeah.
Because when me and him, we get together, it's sick. He directs me and produces me. And then, so he tells me, think about this, whatever. He challenges me. So it's good.
Rad.
I think it's good. Fuck, I don't know. Like, some people think it's good. I have no idea.
Every person that I've talked to that's listened to it is like, damn, yeah.
That's sick. Cool.
Well, podcasting, there's 2 schools of thought on it. Like that it could just be, they should be just like phone recordings. You know what I mean? And a lot of them are. And then some people feel cheated by the fact that the big radio guys like Radiolab is an WNYC production. Like, radio is getting in and producing these beautiful shows, right? But that's the beauty of podcasting, is that you've got both. You've got a guy talking into his phone about Star Wars, and then he's got a bunch of people that resonate with that, listening to him. And then you've got the WNYC pouring money like crazy into their shit and production. and then the shows that they pump out are insane, right? You got everything in between. My show's the opposite. Like, I don't think I put that much money in, but I haven't done any accounting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, when I'm talking $60,000, that might seem dramatic, except I also value my time.
Yes.
So I put that
the right
in there
way
too.
to do it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think I put the time that I spent beating the shit of myself in there, but I probably should. But that'd be extra expensive time because that was like serious. Yeah. Anyway,
I had a realization a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a couple of days ago, where I realized, oh fuck, the person I'm afraid of, which is whoever's going to do a snowboarding podcast that talks to all the relevant snowboarders from the beginning to the middle, you know, and beyond. They're sitting in a room somewhere beating themselves up like I did 5 years ago, going, fuck, I don't really know about this guy or that guy. How do I do it?
Yeah.
I always thought there was someone out there that would have an easier time doing it than I have had.
Yeah.
And then I realized, the barrier to getting here is that fucking starting and talking into a microphone and playing it back and hearing your voice and going, oh, okay, I'm going to put that out there. That's the fucking hardest part for me.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Ugh, like painful.
How many times did you have to record those intros?
Well,
was it a one and done? You just like,
there was the very first one that I did. I was like all over, and I call him Bigsby actually. Clayton likes I call him Bigsby because Clayton Bigsby from the Chappelle Show. But anyway, so Bigsby was like he just helped me get through it, and that was so good because there was no producer in any traditional or typical production house, I believe, that would have been able to get me through the door. It actually needed to be someone who could understand me, and he, from what I understand, was a beast mode snowboard filmer. Like I heard stories about him like driving all night from this place that. So he gets me in a way that most people can't. And so like when I'm sitting there trying to do this with like production houses, which don't get me wrong, these production houses, these are good guys, like, but they were just staring at me going like, what do you want? And I'm like, you know, and they're like, you need to do, what's that called? When you do your website, you got to do a call to action and you got to do a newsletter and all this stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, no, that's totally cool. Except I'd rather just shoot myself in the fucking face because that's not me. And I don't ever want to put like, okay, you just got to my website. Hey, check it out, bro. And oh yeah, fuck, by the way, here's the new questionnaire in the 5 Bullet Friday. Like, no, actually that's just not me. And that actually was a big part too, was, so I undid that lie. Like even now when I tell people podcast, most people go, so fucking Facebook, Instagram? I'm like, yeah, none of that. None. And it's like, wait, well, how do you get people to listen? I'm like, it hit me like a brick in the face. It was like, holy shit, you don't want the masses to listen to your podcast because the masses would never fucking get it. And since when did you want to me, Sean Kearns, want to reach the masses when it's been my experience that the masses think I'm fucking crazy? So I want to tie into snowboarders, skateboarders, and surfers, and especially ones that made the choice to like make that their life, like had the balls. I'm gonna start crying. Fuck, had the balls to do that, right? Like, and like it's like when I was going through injuries and stuff, people were like, oh, you're one of those crazy snowboarders, and I was like, you know what? Fuck you. Like I chose to fucking follow my passion and follow my heart and to follow being in the mountains, and I'm a crazy snowboarder. You're a crazy fucking idiot who's living in a fucking fish tank eating fucking cornflakes. And then I think of all the other snowboarders or skateboarders or surfers who actually, like I think of the Sean Palmers, the Sean Farmers, the Gonzas, the Sonny Garcias, all these dudes who I think, like the Andy Irons, the Bruce Irons, that I think are like Danny's, Collins. Like these guys are kings. Like they're kings walking the earth. Well, God rest in peace, Andy. But
yeah.
It's like they're kings. And then for someone to be like, you're crazy fucking skate. I'm like, dude, no, fuck you. Like, bow the fuck down, dude. Like, these guys lived their life and had the balls to do it. And so that's who I want to reach. And then to reach them on the other side of their careers and being like, you got a lot of value still. In fact, you got probably more value now because you could actually teach younger dudes. And when I was going to get help because I was going through some shit, it wasn't there. And so I know I'm fucking blabbering right now, but I'm pretty passionate about it. So
no, that's dope.
Yeah.
When you were talking about those dudes, I remember Travis Rice. I chased him down because I'm pretty tenacious, right? Mm-hmm. Like I called you a bunch of times or messaged you or whatever. I'll come over.
Yeah, awesome, dude.
I'll do what I do to get the interview because I believe in you as a guest. And so I track down Travis Rice at his movie premiere where he has to be.
Yeah.
And he's sitting with his friends, and I have to like invade his privacy and be like, hey, I'm a podcaster. I'd love to do an interview with you. And I got my gear right here.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck, really? And so then I get him to sit down. We smoke a joint. He's like, let's get weird. And then we smoke a cigarette, which is way weirder to me, to be sitting there with this elite athlete, right?
Especially the guy's like a fucking jock or some shit.
He's
too,
a jock,
right? Yeah,
totally.
He's a jock.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
And I'm sitting across the table from him, watching him conduct himself in such a professional way. He knows how to do media.
Yeah.
And I walked away from that all high. I was super high. So I was like, he's godlike.
Yeah.
He has so much confidence in the life choices that he's made and in his ability as a person to, and that's what happens with elite athletes.
Yeah.
Like a Terrier. You drop him on top of a never been done before line, and he looks at it and goes, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
There is no higher level of being human than that.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I totally agree. Like, I think that, first of all, like, what'd you say? Like, they're godlike. Like, I'd be
godlike.
Like, yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with those guys having balls. I've always thought Terriers had weird style, and I've never really felt Travis's style either. But I have tons of respect for both of them. They're just not my jam,
Right, sure.
So maybe godlike with shitty style. Anyway, and not shitty style, but like not my favorite. But anyway, so whatever. I probably have to be talking to those guys about that at some point. Anyway, so I hope they don't dig up some old footage of me with my fucking knee tucked in like fucking Duck Boy and Smooth Groove or some shit. But anyway, so go back to this Clayton for a second. It's not like a bragging thing, but I'm just going to tell you right now, like I filmed skateboarding and I filmed surfing and I filmed snowboarding and I filmed lots of different shit. Porn, all kinds of shit, whatever. And snowboarding is the gnarliest, like not only for the filmer, as far as like you have to have such mental stability because we would fly all over the world. Like, so I'm sure Terrier and Travis have done this. Like you fly, like it all looks like shits and giggles, but those guys, especially Travis, he's gnarly. Like maybe I'm just like hating on him a bit because he's so fucking gnarly that I might just be like, but for him to be like, oh yeah, we're going to fly to this place and then it's going to rain for 2 days, except it's supposed to be sunny, and then the snow gets shitty, and then you fly up in a helicopter, and then all of a sudden Travis is standing on top of a fucking 40-foot cliff with a fucking chute below, and then another 30-foot cliff that if he falls and fucks up, he's dead, or some shit, crevices and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden to be able to pull the trigger on that shit when it's time to pull the trigger. Actually, I'll just say this right now, like I didn't have that in me. So that's why I ended up becoming a filmer. And so tons of respect to Travis and Terrier because like, dude, fuck, I didn't have that in me. I did my best to keep everybody safe when I was filming. But when you stick like so many days with Devin and JP and especially Whistler Backcountry or holy shit, or Lucas Huffman. I remember sitting there for days with Lucas Huffman being like, we're just waiting for a sunny spot, and he's sitting up there hurling a ball like while it's snowing and shitty, and then a sunblock comes out, and then he hucks himself off the hugest fucking thing. So I agree with you. Take a Hollywood actor and throw him in that fucking situation. Take a professional basketball player and throw him in that situation. Good fucking luck, dude. So for me, they are the gnarliest dudes on the planet. Same with, skiers too. Holy shit, dude. Like some of those, like, dude, Pettit and dude, those.
He's not even a skier anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's fucking hilarious.
Isn't that amazing?
It's pretty funny. He's pretty funny. So anyway, I agree with you. Like it's beast, and people don't understand it. And I'm like thinking of like the Sean Farmers or the
meeting Farmer for me was seminal. It was a life changer
Yeah.
because he was the first guy that I interviewed that was like someone I looked up to when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He was probably 50 when I talked to him. He might have been 50, 51. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. To see him have that childlike passion for snowboarding where he's like, oh yeah, I was watching the report. There's no snow in California and this little storm was going to hit like 2 feet. We got at Mount Baker. He drove however many hours that is with his dog in the back of his truck, slept in the parking lot on a fucking foam mat, and got up, does a little stretch in the thing, and went and had like a regular day like we would have out snowboarding. But it had been so long since he'd had a powder day that was like, he was like a little kid, how lit up he was at the end of the day. And I was like, oh, I want more of this.
Yeah.
I want more of like, because I always looked up to him, but I didn't realize how fucking epic of a person that dude is.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah, he's definitely on another level. I mean, I flew him up. We did that. Yeah, I love that you're saying that because, I mean, that's what my podcast is about right there is that I recognize you, Sean Farmer. Like, I recognize you and the world. Fuck, I get emotional about this shit. But the world, well, I don't think the basic world, the masses won't get you, but I get you, dude. And you absolutely were a huge influence in my life. Once again, I don't think Sean Farmer's not my favorite style, but sorry, but just being honest. And the fact that he did that shit back in those movies with that rap, dude, that was actually, you know how good that was? I was so jealous. I hated him for 2 years. I hated Sean Farmer. I was like, that spells his name the wrong way, motherfucker. Like, fucking a chick name and fuck that guy and fucking I'd be landing those cliffs if I was on a 400 centimeter board too, fucking kook, and I had all this shit. But actually, I was jealous. I was so jealous. I was like, dude, that is the sickest shit. So, and I had him up here for when we shot the end of Shakedown. We had this big idea to bring Sean up here to have him part of the movie. So he actually came up and flew around with me and JP and Seth Hewitt and Lucas Huffman, and we actually hired a heli. Dude, I flew Farmer to Canada, and he just came and hung out with us. It was so sick. It was like I wanted to get footage of him and stuff, and it was like to honor him, but we just didn't make it in the movie, and I think we were just so burnt at the end of the year that we just fucking couldn't. Like, there's no creative juices left.
Right.
But we got to hang out with him for a couple days.
That's fucking
and it was
amazing.
Insane. And I actually have a sick picture I could show you of him, and he was just like, that was one of the sickest things to grab. Like and I think it was like JP and Lucas, to have those guys like at that point. I know now they're old school or whatever, but fucking to have them being like, hey, we got to get Farm up here. Like, how sick is that, dude?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's rad. I actually have gone back and thought about my own genesis story, how I got into board sports at all. And it all stems from like one dude. It was a friend of my dad's and my mom's. It was actually the first adults that where I learned what divorce was.
Yeah.
Like, my parents were like, these guys are married, and now they're not going to be married.
Yeah.
And they're going to live in different houses. I'm like 5 years old or something.
Yeah.
And we went and we visited the dude, and he had just gone to California, surfed, grew his hair long, grew a beard, bought a fucking Jeep, was definitely going through like a midlife crisis, right? Yeah. And his dog ran away. So he said, hop in this Jeep that he had, top off. I jump in there, and he drives down to the beach, and he drives the fucking Jeep onto a beach.
No way.
I've never seen it.
And how was that?
I was just like, my mind
And where was
blown.
that? Do you remember?
This is in Orillia, Ontario.
Yeah,
it's like,
sick. Okay.
like where I grew up.
Yeah.
And so he drives on the beach, finds the dog. The dog's with some chicks, and he's, chatting up these ladies from up high on the Jeep. Dog jumps in, and as we're driving home, he kind of turns to me like as though I'm an adult and says, have you ever surfed? I'm like 6 years old.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. He's like, well, promise me you'll surf. At that point, I just internalized that if you make a promise, that's your word. That's who you are as a person.
So he said, promise me you'll surf, and then
something like that. Promise me you'll go to California or you'll try surfing. It'll change your life. And so at 6 years old, I made that promise, and it never went away. Mm-hmm. So when skateboarding came along, when I just saw it, and everything California for me, my whole life was this promise that I was gonna surf or whatever. Anyways, so that's where it actually came from.
Really, that
one dude changed my life when I was 6.
That's a way better. I thought you were gonna tell me like, oh, we're driving away from the beach, and he looked over at me and he touched me here and he touched me there, and I'm like, wait, whoa, dude, wait, like, where's this? No, I'm like, no, that's sick.
No, I have that.
Promise me you'll surf. I'm a sick fuck. But anyway, dude, I think that guy saved your fucking ass, dude. I think
100%.
I think he actually saved your life.
Or ruined
like,
it. I think, who was I talking with that was saying that? Rankwit. There was some sort of conversation where he's like, someone said, oh, aren't you glad? Saved your life. Skateboarding, snowboarding, whatever. And I'm going to change his words a bit because these are my words, but his idea was, oh yeah, I'm so thrilled that the thing that brings me the most joy, it's never perfect. It's never good. Like, I can do this trick and I'll work on it forever. I'll fall down. I'll hurt myself obsessively, and I won't get a good job, and I won't go to fucking school, and I'll waste my entire life trying to get just a pivot to fakie. And I'm 55 years old, and I've done it 3 times in my life, and nothing brings me more joy than that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad that I wasted my entire life doing this useless thing. He was like, fuck, I think skateboarding ruined my life.
Yeah.
He feels like there's, a scholarly, university-educated, tenured professor, Rankwit, that didn't happen because one day he picked up a skateboard and then that was it.
That's actually pretty funny because was he serious or was he like, yeah.
He's an incredible skater too, right? Like you're a style fucking gatekeeper.
Well, whatever. Just fucking, yeah. Dude, like I've been the biggest Rankwit fan ever and always have been.
Yeah, he was the first, and this was just recently, to turn me on to the idea that, no, not the first. Somebody said one time, isn't it ridiculous we're trying to like jump these things down like stairs and shit?
Yeah, okay, so this thing about ruin my life, like I used to make that joke too. It's like surfing ruined my life. So what I would say to that is actually, yeah, it ruined my life from a conventional wisdom point of view.
Totally.
Right? So it's funny. I was just thinking about this when you were talking and you just said scholarly. So do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yeah.
I just know he's some dude who's got a bow tie and talks a lot. And from what I understand, he says some pretty cool stuff about shit and pisses people off. So I'm stoked on that. People talk, fucking Jordan Peterson. I'm like, dude, why the fuck could I listen to fucking dude with a fucking bow tie? Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I can't even. And then he wrote this book or something. And one of the chapters apparently, and I saw a little video, was let the skateboarders skateboard. Something like that. Here's what I'm all about right now is like, first of all, that's sick that he noticed that. That's cool. Like, that's really cool that I think he's like a 10-year professor. He's got all these letters after his name.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like, that guy noticed. And here's the part where I would challenge the philosophy of Rankwit so yeah, there is like understanding in your head. You're like that guy's walking along. He probably put his bow tie on, probably put his fucking jacket on, went, oh, I'm a fucking professor, and then walked down school one day and all of a sudden saw these kids doing something. So that's thinking about it, right? And being like, wow, using his brain, smart guy. Where I'm at is I'm like in the world of therapy and stuff, there's a big term called somatic therapy, which is like in your body. And your body knows, like your body actually knows knowledge. And so what I would say is I'd love to sit there and tell Jordan Peterson and say, yeah, I would love to try and explain skateboarding to you, but I will never be able to do it with words. It's such a body fucking thing. Like, I think it's so cool that you saw that, but it's such a different level of understanding that I actually can't give it words, like what it did for me and how I learned how to be in touch with my body because of skateboarding. Like, I actually think, so he's thinking in his head and using his mouth to talk. And I was like, fuck, dude, I would love to get Jordan Peterson to somehow do the snake run at Sealand someday. And then I guarantee you all that knowledge that's in his head would dump down into his body and he would be, holy fuck.
Right.
What the fuck is like, I figured this out in my head, but I have no way of experiencing this. Whereas I'm like every skateboarder, snowboarder, surfer, anybody who's done like what they call like a gravity, where you're pushing against gravity for a sport or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Dude, you have so much more knowledge than someone like a professor, or it's a knowing. It's not a thinking. I know exactly how sensitive or fragile or how not fragile I am because of skateboarding. So Jordan Peterson, I think he also is like worried about making people fragile and like we're all sensitive, super, like we're all delicate and all this stuff. And I'm like,
so
that's really cool, dude. Like you recognize that. And what I'd like to say is I can tell you exactly where my limit is as far as, So here's the thing. I'm not delicate. I'm not fragile. I am highly sensitive and I hurt when I fall.
Yep.
But I'm not fragile. And I can tell you from a body knowing level. And that would just be such a cool conversation to have. And when I think of Rankwit saying that, I'm just like, first of all, I know Rankwit. And I'm like, you better fucking thank God that you never fucking became someone else because
yeah.
He'd have been a scary fucking lawyer, dude. Let's put it that way. If he put the passion he put into skateboarding, snowboarding, into being a fucking lawyer, dude, we'd be fucked. The whole planet would be fucked. He'd be the best lawyer ever, dude. Like, yeah.
I think I've said it on mic before. It's like a dumb joke. I might have said it to you. A guy dies and goes to heaven.
Not me.
He was an army general, and he gets to be God, and he says to God, I do have a question for you. Who was the greatest Army general on Earth? And God goes, that guy. And they look down and he goes, that's my dry cleaner. What are you talking about? That guy wasn't an Army general. And God says, yeah, but if he would have been an Army general, he would have been the best.
Oh, sick.
Right?
Yeah.
And it just makes you think, like, exactly. Rankwit,
Yeah.
he was an incredible skateboarder. Still is an incredible snowboarder. And I think that's what I was talking about with Travis, was that I saw in his passion for snowboarding the fact that he got that thing that guy was talking about to me, like surfing will change your life.
Yeah.
It changed his life when he was a kid, and he kind of was like, Mommy, Daddy, I like this. And they were like, great. And they got him more that. And he lived in Jackson, which is fucking the perfect place to get bit by that bug.
Yeah.
Like, imagine, I
If
think,
you like hitting rocks and shitty powder. But anyway, sorry.
Hey, you know what? Every
Such a dick, dude.
Everybody needs that. It needs to be tempered. You can't just learn in powder. When you move out to BC
I'm just
from Ontario,
Yeah.
you could tell who grew up out here. There's nobody out here that of their own volition becomes a fucking pro. Why would you want to be a pro? That's work. You just want to get there early on a POW day.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be a pro.
No.
If you live in BC.
Yeah. I mean, that was just a way for me to being able to fucking, keep doing what I needed to do. But it was like, dude, whether pro or not, I would have been fucking doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking about something last night. I was thinking about talking to you today, and I was like, what? Yeah. So this is another part. Like, I'm kind of a head case about this stuff, but whatever. Okay, so to be on a chairlift and have the thought or the feeling of, okay, yeah, like I need to do this. Like, I need to be in the mountains. I need to snowboard. This is like to have this mental choice of like, this feels so good. But then to get off a chairlift and then to embody the thought is so next level. It's like, imagine a person going, I want to be a lawyer. And they're like, whatever, they're doing whatever they're doing. They're a fucking landscaper. They go home and then they start looking on the internet, or they start studying, or they start... But dude, to be like, I want to be a snowboarder. I'm going to make this choice. And then to get off the chairlift and actually start doing it, like I said, that's like cementing it in my cells. And it was a way to actually physicalize and take action to actually the thought. I'm so lucky that happened, because then I'd be like, here's a thought, then go snowboarding. And it was like, okay, it's in me. And I get to the chairlift and be like, holy fuck, that's real. Like, I actually can feel this now. Like, it came through my feet and now it's part of me. I'm like, whoa. Like, so just, I don't know. I'm just so grateful that I even had to even have this conversation. Is like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, this is so sick. And I value it so much. And I value other people who did the same thing. So,
right.
Yeah. Anyway.
What Jordan Peterson doesn't know, what the general public doesn't know, and the people that are watching snowboarding in the Olympics and now Street League and all this skateboarding shit and surfing that happens, the barrier to entry, and let's just take out of it for a minute the fact that when your generation went to the skate park, you had to physically fight to stay there, right?
Yeah,
There was a good chance you're going to get beat up by somebody, that's an adult, and you're a little kid.
Yeah.
You take that out of it, 99 out of 100 skateboarders, their first experience is stand on the thing, fall down, arms broken, never do it again.
Yeah.
That's 99 out of 100.
It
just takes so many
like they
people
did once, I tried that once, and then yeah.
And then you got, of those 1 out of 100 that go a little ways, within the first month, there's a broken arm there. There's there's cuts on your hands, and the crazy people like us, you don't even notice it when it happens.
What, you don't notice what? You don't notice like when you're hooked?
That the pain is something that is going to be there. Yeah, you have to be hooked in order to do it. You can't.
Yeah.
Like posers, there's this divide that comes between somebody who has a genuine passion for the sport and a poser that just gets so big so fast that your friend that was there with you, that, his parents bought him all the Burton stuff, you were jealous.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you don't give a fuck because you've got a broken bar foot that's cut down with shitty broken bindings, and he's got brand new everything, but he isn't doing it. He can't do it because he knows he's going to fall, and that one fall is going to take him just right out of it. It's already probably taken him out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just looking at him going, like wolves. Remember that feeling like, oh, fuck, I'm getting that shit from that guy.
Yeah.
I'm going to trade him something for that board that's just sitting
yeah,
against the wall of the garage.
Dude.
Remember that?
I remember that. That happened. It's funny. That happened to me. Like, so I think I talked the last time about my mom took me to the skate park. But I had a break from the first time I went too. At one point, I went back to Sealand, and I hadn't been there in years. And I think it was like 81 that I actually had like wider trucks, bigger board. And I went back to Sealand. I remember being like a foggy day in the fall, no one there, leaves in the bottom of the bowl, all that shit. Couldn't even do the snake run, da-da-da-da. Like, couldn't do a kick turn. And I kind of like rolled in, and I'm like, and it was like, oh, it was also Action Now magazine had me all stoked on looking at pictures and stuff. And anyway, so I kind of like cruised along and then kind of like fell off, or cruised along and stepped off. And then I'm like, I remember seeing a guy do a kick turn. I'm like, oh, okay, I want to do that. I'm like, okay, what is that? Like he lifted his front foot and he scraped his tail, like when he did this turnaround. Like, what is? I don't even know what that is. So then I'm just like, okay, well, you just go up the wall and you do that. And then I like slipped out and basically broke my wrist, like broke my scaphoid or whatever the fuck it's called. And I didn't even know what that was. I remember being like it hurt. First of all, bam, like down, nausea, scared. I did something wrong. I did something bad. But luckily for me, it was Sealand, right? So it was like, there's this like river flowing and there's like wind blowing in the trees. And I'm like, I was in nature, and I was like, I need to protect this. I need to lie. I need to lie to my mom and tell her that no one can take this from me. I cannot tell her that I fell down skateboarding. I need to, and I probably didn't need to lie to my mom, but I remember just being so protective of it and being like, you got to lie and say you did this doing soccer or something, because you cannot have someone take this from you. So I think there was enough for me. And now I see it so clearly. I'm like, holy fuck, there was transition. The bowl had transition. There was like this flowing shape to it. There was this creek. There's all this stuff. And it was like, now I'm like, oh, wow, there was so much more going on than just the simple slam that I had. I think about kids now, or when I've seen, like I go down to Southern California and I see like the classic soccer moms taking their kids skateboarding. And I'm like, wow, like, thank God that never happened to me, because I probably would have found something else, rather than
Oh, absolutely.
Mommy taking me to the Encinitas skate park with all my helmet and shit, and then I've got like a Slurpee in one hand and my fucking cell phone in another, and then all of a sudden everybody's got their fucking, and I'm cruising around and I'm like, I would have been fucked.
Yeah.
Like, so
My mom actually told me I wasn't allowed to get a snowboard. I don't know where she got the idea that it breaks your legs or something. It's bad for your knees.
Yeah.
The fact that she said I couldn't have one, that was all I wanted.
Yeah.
So fuck it. That is what I'm going to do then.
Yeah,
for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. Yeah.
Had my mom went and got me at Burton and the whole kit, I would have just been a poser with it in my garage waiting for some vulture to trade me for something shitty.
It's funny. I'm thinking about when did I do that? And I remember, so poser, this is funny that, first of all, that term's killing me right now, because
I haven't said it probably in 30 years.
I love it, dude. I love it. It's like, what, you're fucking looking at me and you're saying poser? Fuck you. So you're the fucking poser. You showed up with an electric car drinking a fucking orange mocha frappuccino, dude. Anyway, we'll talk about that. The listeners got to hear how this fucking guy showed up. Fucking electric car. And then we go to fucking Starbucks. He's like, oh yeah, I need a coffee. And fucking he ordered, let me see that thing. Pass that fucking thing over. And he orders this fucking whipped cream, fucking cream caramel crunch frap. And it actually says Erik on it. I'm like, really, dude? Like, wow. Speaking of posers. Oh, wow. But no, I'm just kidding, dude. So
I'm a coffee poser for sure.
But that's funny, because think about poser. Poser in skateboarding, and for me, that's the worst thing you could ever be.
It was the worst thing.
Actually, me and Rankwit used to drive around, and Rankwit would be like, fuck, he was so funny, dude. He'd see skateboarders on the side of the street and scream, fucking posers! And they would be like, they wouldn't be skating, they're holding
their board.
Put your fucking board down, fucking. Yeah. Dude, if you actually look at poser, which is the worst thing I could ever be, that is social media.
It is.
Poser. Check me out. You actually get rewarded for being a poser, when back in the day, the only way you'd get a photo in a magazine was by doing something sick.
Yeah.
Unless you're some fucking cocksucker. Oh, anyway, whatever. I mean, like whatever, like sucking up to the magazines. Apparently I can't say cocksucker anymore, but except when I see you drinking that fucking Frappuccino. But anyway, so we'll have to fucking clean that one up later. But anyway, so
let's dive right into this, because this is the other thing that's on my list.
Okay, cool.
Is that you didn't? Okay, so you said gay in your episode, and I whinged, and I was like, okay, let's stop. Political correctness police here.
Yeah.
I need you to tell the listeners.
Yeah, and you got all
that
weird.
You're not homophobic, and that gay doesn't mean what it means, which is like diminutive to people that like. What could be more fucking manly than actually fucking another dude? That would be hard to do as a heterosexual. Anyways,
well, that would be gnarly. Well, no, I thought about that too. I'm like, I mean, that's pretty funny. But anyway, so as you're drinking your fucking Frappuccino. But anyway, so when I'm bagging another dude, and it's totally hard.
I was saying,
but just bear with me for a second.
Yeah,
so I was thinking about this. Like, I think what you're saying, or I think that what I'm like. Yeah, first of all, there was this like underlying, I believe, thing around homosexuals, like fag, like pussy, blah blah blah. And I think what you're saying, or what I'm like, I think the gnarliest thing in the world, especially back when I was young, is that if you were homosexual, which fucking whatever. To actually say that and to own that publicly, that would be fucking way gnarlier than smashing bottles on your head.
That's
and fucking,
what Pride
that,
Parade is named after. Having pride in being gay was you couldn't have it. That was way braver than anything, like you say.
Fucking hairball. It's like, so I'm thinking about that right now. I'm like, I want to start the one for skateboarding and snowboarding. I want to start the Pride Parade for that, because it's like really like equally gnarly for me when people are like, oh, you do what? Like, you crazy, right. What? Like, they don't understand it. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's like, I don't believe I was seen or understood. And I believe that's super fucking
marginalized.
Yeah, marginalized.
Being a skateboarder meant you were marginalized.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But keeping it on that uncomfortable thing, this is all I wanted to clear up, was just the fact that you actually cleared it up on the opening of your second episode with JP. And I thought it was brilliant.
Okay, so first of all, I said in the first episode, just to be clear, you got all weird because I said gay, and then I remember being like, yeah, fuck that. I'll say what I fucking want to say.
Totally.
And then the JP one, then I said something at the beginning. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, what you said at the beginning was that you felt uncomfortable hearing it. It gave you a weird feeling in your stomach. Are we allowed to just talk like how we talk if we're private? If it's just us here? Is it okay for us to say gay and fag? Because we're not offending anyone and all of us here know what we mean by that?
Yeah.
Or do we always have to talk everywhere as though there's someone there that would be offended?
Yeah.
I'm on the side of being more politically correct. But I recognize that there are people that have a bad leg. That's the word lame is too much for them to hear. Like, oh, that's pissing me off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck yeah, no.
Right? I get it. There is too far.
Yeah.
And that's why when you said in your intro, the feeling in my stomach, I'm using that. And yesterday, when said some fucking hideous word, I got a feeling in my stomach. He said, listen, I've talked to my friends, and that's what they call themselves, and they're fine with me saying it. I'm like, but it gives me a weird feeling in my stomach, so maybe don't say it around me. I don't know. I don't want to be the police on this at all.
Yeah.
But when my grandfather used to say, in fact, I'm not saying it, but what those little black candies were called as a kid
is what they were called.
Fuck,
that's what they were called. Yeah.
I can't say it. Someone that I respect who's a PC police person from my childhood, she thought that was fine because it was written on the box.
Yeah.
Gave me a bad feeling.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And I think that we can start to include other things in that. Maybe let's not go all the way to lame.
Yeah.
Unless we have to. I don't know.
Here's the deal. Like, I won't. So let's back up to that thing you said about the political correctness. So I just want to give...
I was wondering if you would hear that now and it would give you a weird feeling in your stomach for you to be like, you know what, a fag is a cigarette and a retard is a thing.
No, I'd still say the same shit. It's just that something Clayton, so this is why it's been so good having Clayton is, because he just brought to my attention, he's like, yeah, I get it, dude. Like, you know, you've stood up for who you are your whole life. You don't want to be different. But he goes, it was cool. He challenged me and he's like, isn't being politically incorrect the same as being politically correct? Like,
yeah,
what, you know, and he's like, just because you don't want to be politically correct, does that mean you get to say fag and all this other, oops, excuse my French. Anyway, whatever. All these words, excuse my French, I'm just digging a hole. Anyway, and all these words that actually they're words, and yeah, I get it, that would hurt. There's words that I don't feel good about, but the number one question, so I did do that thing. Clayton was like, yeah, let's not go down the road of that, and that's why I was like, okay, I want to own it, and all I can do, the only thing I can do is when I've said something that I'm not stoked, I'm not going to be perfect, so sometimes I'm going to say lame or retard or whatever. I'm going to say the shit.
Or fat chick with no style, which that was the thing that got you, because you're like, wow, I'm hurting somebody's personal feelings. That's a person.
Well, and so this is the thing is when said something the other night and you had the feeling in your stomach, the first question I think everybody should ask themselves, including myself, is why did I have that reaction? Mm-hmm. And to stay in the realm of curiosity. Why? Why did, when this person said this, like even just now when I said the N-word, I felt like when I first said it,
saw it in your face.
When I first said it, I was just like, oh, dude, that's what they were called.
I'm whinging, and you're like, fuck, why are you whinging? That's what they were called.
But then when I said it the second time, I was like, ugh.
You whinged.
And that felt, I was like, but I didn't whinge because, like right now, I could be like, oh, you're going to get Facebook. I don't give a fuck about that shit. What I care about is that my body just went, ugh. Right. Like that felt shitty. And it's like, wow, dude, you're being unconscious. You're just flailing. And that actually isn't what you want to do, and you don't want someone to hurt. I don't want someone to hurt because of something I said.
Right.
At the same time, I do believe it's everybody's individual choice that you can do what you want with a word. And I asked myself, like, okay, boom, one, why did that hurt? Why did I feel off? And then, just the best thing I can do is own it and then be like, hey, here's what I did. I'm not perfect. And I was sloppy there and I didn't mean to. And I actually don't want anybody to hurt about that. And I do not know what it's like to live on this planet for anybody except for me. I don't know what it's like to be a 6'7" privileged white male. I also don't know what it's like to be a 4'2" blah blah blah. Like I don't fucking know. And I can just tell you what it's like to be me, and that's the only person I can do anything about. And so then I just want to be like, okay, so this is what I've done. Here I am, and next step.
Right.
If I sit there and beat the shit out of myself and make myself bad and get all caught up in all that bullshit, that's just about me. And then I stay stuck and there's no movement.
A lot of what we've talked about kind of off mic about just like self-realization, there is this kind of like easy middle way thing. Mm-hmm. Like that's so much easier than explaining what you meant when you said this stupid word that hurt somebody else's. Fuck that shit. I'd like to be able to live free from that. And the only way to live free from that is to actually be free in your head from the attachments to that shit.
And actually, it's a good exercise. I don't like this word mindful. I don't like that. It's overused. So just take speaking and then compare it to skateboarding. Do you just roll into a vert ramp without thinking about what you're doing? Do you drop into a snowboard run without even like thinking? Like if there's like a powder day and you might need to like bomb into the trees. So when people say, I don't know, I just talk too fast and whatever comes out, I'm like, no, dude. You actually have a body felt sensation of being mindful, taking time on yourself. So don't bullshit yourself.
Do it right.
And the words are, so that's me exactly. I'm like, okay, so I am getting better at this because a year ago I would have just been saying this and that and this and not even thinking, being like, I'm not politically correct. And so I'm getting better at it. And it's actually a good exercise to slow down and be mindful or wondering what I'm saying before I say it.
Yeah.
And I just won't be that. Now, don't be an idiot either. Like, you got to have discernment, man. Like, I've spent so much time in my life hanging out with snowboarders and in the mountains, everything, so much of my life that it's actually like I dedicated my whole life to it. So for me to be walking around in general public and talking like I normally do, like people say to me all the time, like, oh, he's the dude, bro. He says dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, you have no idea.
There's probably tons of listeners out there that have had this experience. Oh, it's Tony Hawk over here. Oh, it's Sean White over here. Like, because people don't have any real baseline for what it is to be a skater.
For
they
what,
just go, oh, the guy on TV, that guy. Oh, you're like him. You talk like that. You do. I realized at some point that the way that we talk is voluntary. When I met Farmer, I talked like him for 2 years after. I put on that Missouri drawl because I'm fucking into that. That's why we are always emulating, like, we're always looking up, like, whether it's at the bowl level, like your local park level, or like you just get into the magazines, you start watching videos. Like, the deeper you go in, the bigger these people become.
Yeah.
There's a double-edged sword there, because being the dude, bro, like now, at almost 50, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, you're still fucking categorizing people. Just go fuck yourself, you idiot. But then when I was a kid, there was something about being like, oh, you got Vans? Oh, you look at this California guy.
Yeah.
But I'm the same as you. That Rankwitz story of him yelling like posers to people.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that the only reason not to skate on your board is that you're on a dirt road. If you're anywhere that is rollable and you're carrying your board, you're a fucking poser. I remember feeling that.
The thing that I think has been very beneficial in around this topic is so I don't roll around in the world, walk around in the world, having an expectation that, like, I was really frustrated. Now I'm like, I am a different way with people who really know me, professional skateboarders and people who understand it and know it. I'm a different way and have a different expectation of my relationship with them than I do when I'm walking down the street talking to. I mean, I work with people in groups, like people who have all different kinds of things, like lawyers, doctors, whatever, all these different people. And I talk to them in a different way than I would. And I'm not trying to expect them to understand the dude, bro, hey, bro, you know? And it's made my life a hell of a lot easier.
Like, my whole life, I was trying to grow up my whole life, right? Like, so when my first kid was born, I'd set expectations for, like, I got to be this by then. You know what I mean? Here's 9 months, I've got to be a fucking grown up. And then the kid was born, I was like faking it. Like, no, I'm all grown up. And then the kids would come to my work when they were 3, 5, whatever. And I would have to be a different person at work. Like, all of a sudden I'd be like, guys, we can't swear. We can't talk like we normally do. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, I just started being myself around the kids. I think that's better. I think it is. Well, I don't know why it's rare that parents are genuine. It's fucking rare, dude. When you're talking with parents and you've got kids, you have to be a completely different person. And it seems like everybody else is just, that's who they are all the time. These loser, now I'm doing it.
Yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I don't know, just like fucking fake idiots.
Yeah, like parents with kids and stuff like that. Yeah.
I was talking about it with Trini last night and just saying, I'm that dad that's just, I want to be connected with my kids just because I didn't have that connection with my parents. I think that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah. Like, okay, first of all, like being a parent, there is a role in being a parent. So, of course, it's not about being fake, but sometimes you'd love to probably say, hey, son, like, let's smoke some crystal meth and have a bottle of whiskey. But then you probably realize as a parent, that's probably not going to be a good idea at the time, right? So then you got to be like, okay, let's just do the meth. No, just kidding. So, but anyway, whatever. And it's like, you got to tell them something different.
Let's be real. This is counterintuitive. My kid, 14 years old, stole an ounce of fucking weed and $500 from my drawer. And once I figured it out, it was already gone, the money and the weed. Yeah. But the thing that was perplexing me the whole time was that we were getting further apart. And I'm like, fuck, 14, I'm losing my son. You know, he's becoming a man. He's got his own ideas. And the moment he confessed to the weed and the money theft, and then he saw in my eyes I was laughing, we were so much closer right away. Yeah. Because he thought for months, when I get caught, I'm dead. And then he got caught, and all of a sudden, that fucking tension that had been there for like months was gone. Yeah. And he's like, I'll never do it again. I'll never do it. I was like, fuck, dude, if you like smoking weed, smoke weed. Like, this isn't about smoking weed. I made some bad parenting moves. I had weed and money around a 14-year-old kid. That's a bad fucking move.
So the key, man, this is what people, I think, that just need to hear is when you just said it, the look in that, so that your kid confessed. That is such an important time. That split second when your kid's looking at you and he's like, okay, like, because when I was a kid, I was like, I want to tell people what's going on. But the reaction was so gnarly. If I actually said the truth, violent. You know, I'm not talking about my mom and all that kind of stuff, but it was just like, well, actually take my mom. Like there's a single mother with 3 kids and she has so much stress. And then I'm going to say, oh, Mom, I just stole a bag of weed from you and $500. That would not have gone, and I get it. So, but the key is when people tell me something that's kind of hairball about something they've done or they think they're bad or they think they're rotten, it's so key to have zero reaction. Right. And just be like, listen, listen, shut the fuck up and listen and let there be a few moments of air after they've said it. And then be like, okay, cool. Okay, you told me. Okay, cool. That is what I think that's so missed in our society around parenting and stuff is people being able to say what's going on without anybody freaking. And don't get me wrong, if you were pissed, it would also be good for you to be later. Like, hey, dude, right now it's about you. You just told me something. Thank you. Yeah. I got some stuff going on inside, and we'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that later, or I'll go deal with that because I'm the parent. Yep. But to sit there and be with your kid might actually give a chance that the kid will actually open up in the future and tell you, because what you just said, the number one thing I think you want is connection with your kid. 100%. And then you guys were connected. Totally. And
I recognize it as that moment where, like, I've seen friends of mine and even myself where confessing to your parents would mean you have to go back into kid mode and you got to deal with a bunch of fucking punishments and shit, but it would feel a lot better to have that weight off your shoulders. Yeah. But when you're a kid and you don't confess, then the tension between the parents and the kid get fucking worse and worse, and then you're moving out and you don't talk to them anymore. And then it's always funny to hear people talk about how now they can talk about doing drugs when they're a kid with their parents or whatever. Yeah. I always imagined, what would it be like if we could have done it in real time? Right? And that's the experiment I'm doing with my kid. And where it comes back to what you're doing in your life right now, I've been to therapy. I've been to therapists maybe 5, and I haven't met one that I could be honest with. I've been more honest with you over the phone than I have with them. Yeah. Because in a real way, fuck yeah, I felt suicidal. But I couldn't say it because as soon as I said it, that put me into a whole other protocol where they're like, oh, harm reduction and...
Yeah, the S word. You say the S word. And
that was it,
whereas
dude.
If you told me you felt suicidal, I'd be like, okay.
Right.
Tell me more.
And I think it's the same thing. I think that therapists that and I'm making a generalization based on, like I say, about 5 people. It's like, the fuck, they don't listen. First of all. Yeah. Second of all, they don't catch it when you tell them something real, something like important to you. They're off in fucking space looking out the window or whatever it is. Like, oh, fuck, time's almost up. Yeah. How did that make you feel? And
I don't want to. I mean, I hear you, and I agree. Like, it's been my experience that I've actually conventional therapy can actually cause a hell of a lot more damage than if you just left it alone. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, you've got PTSD and borderline, and because addiction bad, suicide, and it's like, I'm just trying to tell you what's going on, dude.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
There's a trust issue there, right? Like, so that's what I'm talking about with my kid, and that's what I see with most parents, that there is no trust from the kid to the parent. Yeah, because as soon as they say something real, they can even just get close. The parent freaks the fuck out.
And the parent freaks the fuck out, I think, because there's so much fucking stress of them trying to be a perfect parent. Yeah. So I got a lot of heart for the parent, too. So if the kid's sitting there saying, oh, I just did crystal meth, mommy, and mommy's like, I'm a bad mommy because my kid just did. Whereas the kid's just sitting there trying to go, dude, you know?
Well, that's a great example because I was talking about this the other day with a number of people. Mm-hmm. We've got such a fucking stigma on drugs in our society. It's fucked up. Yeah. You keep using crystal meth as the example of like heroin, right? Like crystal meth.
First one's free.
Couldn't think of anything worse, right? First of all, alcohol's worse than all of them. I'm sorry, I'm saying it. It's more destructive. It's 90% of violent crime in North America has some
The statistics are that alcohol is by far the fucking worst for everything, like depression, anxiety.
So if your kid comes to you and tells you that they were doing crystal meth, I'll give you another example, which is the exact same.
I love this is supposed to be a snowboard podcast.
Fuck, dude. My kid will tell me the real deal shit, but I've got to sit there stone-faced and not react. Yeah. The shit is going on in the world. We don't address it because as soon as we touch on it, I don't want to take responsibility for what's going on in that fucking world. Yeah. I want my kid to be, if he's exposed to it, to be able to fucking handle himself
Yeah.
And if he can't, I want him to be able to come to me as the foundation of his fucking life.
Yeah.
And say, this is weird. What should I do?
Yeah.
And if he can't do it, then I fucking failed as a parent. Sorry to anybody out there that's got kids that they're having a hard time connecting with, but think about it for a second, how you make your kid feel if they actually ask you something real.
Yeah, I'm with you, and it boggles my mind. I've met a lot of therapists in the last 10 years, and I've actually told people stuff that's happened to me, and the look on their face is just like, and I'm like, dude, you're a therapist? The fuck? Like,
why?
Just, there's gnarly stuff going on in the world, and there's this thing, I believe, of like people being delicate and worried about what people are going to... Don't tell your kid what you're really thinking. Okay, first of all, in my opinion, the kid already knows, whether you're saying it or not. I think it really is just about... I just keep on going back to skateboarding. Skateboarding taught me how, like, I'm not fragile and I'm not delicate.
And what a group of real people. Like, isn't it nice to sit in a room with Mike Ranquit? Well, you're just having a fun time. That's because in skateboarding, snowboarding, in this culture, authenticity is the fucking currency.
Oh, fuck, man. Okay,
currency.
So that, I'm glad you said that, because that's in the realm of healers and shaman and all this stuff. I will never be able to explain this. Only a skateboarder will understand what I'm about to say. Is like, my fucking poser radar is on another level. Like, no, you're the real deal, or you're a poser, or you're doing this for you. Like, I can tell when someone's like really doing it from the heart versus doing it because, and don't get me wrong, no one's perfect and it's not so black and white, but when the scales are tipped more like I'm doing this because I'm an insecure fuckface and I'm just trying to write books and make it look like I'm a super therapist, I'm sitting there going, oh, dude, like, you're hurting. Whereas I'll see other people, I'll be like, holy shit, dude, this is the real deal. This person's really doing this from the heart. And I think that's something that I got taught, because to be a poser in our thing was like death. If I was a poser for me in skateboarding meant I might lose skateboarding. And skateboarding was saving my life.
Right.
And if I wasn't allowed to go to the skate park because I was a poser and people were making fun of me, and the bullies, my dads, my 40 dads, who thank God, poser radar for me is number one, because it was this life or death. It's not about being perfect or it's just like, dude, fucking, I can tell when someone's full of shit.
You know, I haven't gone into any other really realms of society as deep as I have in snowboard, skateboard. I tried comedy for a little bit, and you see similarities, but there's nowhere where it's as fucking jagged like skateboarding. Like, really, there's so much that you have to learn to not be a poser.
Yeah, well, no, it's got to be in your bones, dude. It can't be. You can't learn it.
Also, there's some things that are temptations, right? Like longboards. When longboards first came out, everyone had one leaning up against the house to go to the store, grab a few beers, and come back. But God forbid you got addicted to like hill bombing or something. You just didn't want to be that guy. You don't
it's like.
And now for me, I just saw a guy on the way here on one of those one wheels, which I tried a one wheel, which is just it's like a single wheel in the middle. It's got a balance board on it. It's got a motor with some like just regular people out in the world. Someone bought one, my neighbor, and I tried it, and I was like, this is changing my life. It's like snowboarding, except the whole world is you can go up hills, grass, fucking concrete, whatever.
So you ride one of those things?
I was like 100% hooked. 100% hooked.
Yeah.
And so I called one
Too
wheel.
Bad they don't make
like,
one where your feet can be fucking forward, like fucking like
do,
standing beside.
They do, and
fuck, you're
so
killing
horrible.
me.
So I called one wheel. They said no, and that's the best thing that ever happened. I was like, you could sponsor my podcast because it's essentially.
I would not be doing this podcast if you. I would not, dude. Just so you know, like I'm like, you almost lost me just now. I almost whipped this thing at your head.
I get it, because when I saw the guy riding one up the hill with his helmet on and his briefcase, I was like, it clicked.
It took you that much to get it.
I knew already. You could see it, but there was also a moment where
I'm actually hating you right now. Anyway, kidding. Go ahead.
No, there was a moment where you said something that exactly
about posers.
Yeah. No, it was. Oh, no. It was about the gravity sports.
Yeah.
The fact that you're actually fighting against gravity. There's no when you take that out, you eliminate that, and you put a fucking electric motor in there. You're a kook.
Yeah.
I got it. Any kook can do it.
Yeah.
Anybody could get on a one wheel and go and have fun. Good, great. That's the masses. Go do that shit.
Yeah.
You look like an idiot, and it feels cool. And you could trick yourself into thinking that you're not a poser
I'm shaking
on that
my
thing.
head with my eyes closed right now. Just so,
no, and you're right. And that's one of those temptations, like I'm talking about. If I would have come to you, and snowboarding was one of those. When I was a skater and I went back to the ramp and I said, I've been snowboarding and you guys aren't going to believe how fucking fun this is. And Kari Wilcox looked at me like, ugh, fucking kook. Snowboarding one wheel will never make the jump because it doesn't have the gravity. It's
yeah, dude. I'm not.
It's
I mean,
cell
you can
phone.
keep talking about one wheels over there. I'm not doing
there's
it.
an app to make it work on your phone. You got to have your phone in your pocket.
Dude, I'm just not even. I just don't like you anymore. So.
I hear what you're
saying. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not.
The best thing that ever happened to me was one wheel said, "Fuck no."
Yeah.
Because it was premature. What happened was I rode it one time around the block, and I was like, "This feels great." He lent it to me last week.
And you are a mailman, so I could see where your brain could be like, okay, this could be doable.
Look how fast
I'm going to cut you that.
Thank you.
I'm going to be, I'll give you that. But.
And then I rode around honest to God, this is hilarious. I rode around by myself on it for like half an hour, and now I'm done. It's like, what are those things? Like where you're dying as a kid to try that fucking paddleball. It's just that. It's all hype. Yeah. And then you hit it a few times, and then it breaks, and you go, these things fucking suck. There's no fun in it. There's nothing in it to do. Why do I get these? How did it trick me?
No, yeah. Okay, so
there's no integrity.
Enough of one wheel. I got to stop you, dude. I just have to. It's hurting me. Here's what I want to do. If you're up for this, do you want to end soon, or do you have anything? Do you have another stuff on your list? Because I want to end soon because I want to go chill out.
We've hit the two things: the political correctness and what the fuck is your show about?
Oh, sweet. So my show's about, I don't know, and we'll see. And actually, I don't listen to podcasts, so basically I just record. And no, what it's about is getting people to talk about the stuff that isn't rad all the time as well, the whole realm of it. And to bring, I know that JP's interview, like I actually have a lot of people, have contacted me and been like, it's been okay for them to be honest about stuff they've been going through because they listen to that. So that's what it's about for me.
Good.
I don't like having a podcast. I don't like talking into a microphone. I don't like all that shit. But what I do like is when someone who thought they were alone, thought they were like out there, misunderstood, and they listen to that, and then they call me up and be like, dude, I really needed to hear that. That's what my show's about. That's it. Yeah.
How often is it going to come out?
Whenever we want. To be in total integrity, it was like, so if you go to the page, there's like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and I don't know whatever else there is. And they all have like an X through them. And I don't do any of that social media. And I believe that my community, people I want to talk to, it'll find them.
Cool.
And I'm not worried about it. And I'm not worried about how many likes. And,
right.
You know, and this leads me to the next thing is like So Clayton and I were talking about this, or Bigsby, and Bigsby was like, if you don't like talking, then do something, like take action. So I'd like to make a challenge on this podcast right now to anybody who's listening to this to find two people. I'm just going to go with two. Bigsby said three, but he's a grinder. So find two people that you haven't seen. Like I'm thinking of like Gary Pendergrass's funeral, and I was looking out at everybody, and I was like, dude, this is a sick community of snowboarders. I'm like looking over at like Alan Clark, Tosh, Ken Ockenbach, like boy, all these dudes. I was like, any one of those guys, any one of them, if they had a problem, something going on, and I haven't seen them in 10 years, I'd do something about it. And so my challenge at the end of this podcast is that I challenge everybody to, first of all, like, reach out to two people that you know from the past that you haven't talked to in a while. And I'm going to do it. Here's the thing. Fucking phone them. Clayton was talking to me about, he's actually bumped into friends since he got off of social media, and they've been like, dude, I thought you died or something. I haven't, He's like, how fucked up is that the person thought I might have died or had some kind of like depression or something. And what did they do? And it's funny because you said the same thing when you came over, and I'm not bagging on you. I mean, the one wheel thing, I have years of abuse coming your way just to be like, you're not allowed to edit that out. Anyway, so, and I swear I'm going to get them to sponsor you now. But Bigsby said that how crazy is that like someone will actually think you're having a bad spot, then they'll try and reach you on social media or something, and that's it. And even you said, you're like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about it, so I'm not sure what he's doing on social media. And it's like, so here's my challenge. Step one, fucking call somebody. Actually try to reach them. And if you feel weird about that, first question, ask yourself why. Because I think when there's 20 different ways to get a hold of someone, I'm so confused. So I'm going to commit to calling 2 people.
The phone call.
I'm going to find 2 people that I haven't talked to in a long time, and I'm actually going to even take it to another level. One of them is going to be someone I missed, want to hang out with, haven't talked to, and da-da-da-da-da. And then the other one's going to be, when are you going to have this edited by?
I was thinking like this weekend.
Okay, cool. So it gives me a day or 2. I've already thought of it. I thought of this last night. I'm going to find someone that I have a ton of respect for or been around, but I wasn't so rad to. I wasn't so sick. There's a person that I really did a lot of work for their company. I did them a lot of really good. They made money off my hard work. And I also believe that the job I had and the situation I was in would never have been, it wouldn't have been if it wasn't for this person. That, like, Peter Line was someone who started Forum and so much ability, so much, like, not just with snowboarding, but also his vision and all that kind of stuff.
Style.
And even though I did work really hard and make those guys a lot of money and stuff, there's something that's always kind of bugged me is I never really showed Peter the fucking respect that I think he deserved from me. You know what I mean? Like,
got it.
That company would not have been there if it wasn't for Peter Line.
Absolutely.
And that making the resistance was like the biggest push in my snowboard career. So
rad.
I'm going to hit him up in the next 24 hours.
Somehow
I'm going to track him down.
I got his number. I'll give it to you.
Okay, cool. And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to say to him, dude, that's something that's actually been on my mind for 10 years is like, I've never shown you the respect you deserve. And
Rad.
I do respect you a lot.
Record it.
See, that I hate that shit.
I'm sorry.
Just the fact that I'm going to do it. Yeah, no, I know. You're such a fucking... So that's it. Like 2 things. And then I'm going to phone someone else who I got that one. But so it's kind of a challenge. Like,
I like
do
it.
a positive and then do a negative.
Yeah.
Like do one that hurts a little bit.
I thought of the 2 people right off the bat as soon as you said it. And I mentioned them and it ties it up nicely.
Yeah.
Ruth's brother, one of my best friends growing up, absolute fucking shredder. He loved Natus, so he was like ollie airwalks and just like fucking Natus style street skating. And we moved out west together. He's just such a great guy. I haven't talked to him in years and years and years. Fuck, I was an asshole to that guy always. Yeah. Like I was always a little annoying and I knew it, and a little boundary pushing, and like he didn't want to lend me his car, so I would just like fucking steal it, and drive it up to Cypress.
Yeah. So there's one.
Yeah, so that's one. And then Kari Wilcox, he was the ramp guy.
So here's the real ticket to it. So this is the part that is going to suck. Can you make that call, and can I make that call? Nil void of having an expectation of what they're going to do. Like there could be a chance that 1, I can't get a hold of someone. 2, they might not want to talk to me. All I can do is do my best. And so to go in that expecting it's all going to be fucking rainbows and butterflies shooting out of cows' asses after, like...
I've had it where I called one of my friends growing up, and then he's like, why are you calling?
Yeah,
and I spent the whole time going like, oh, just thought I would call and see how you're doing. He's like, are you high right now?
So get clear on that ahead of time. So I'm just going to do it because I want to do something. I like to do what I say what I do, and I want to take action rather than just be like, dude. Hey, I heard the Erik and Sean podcast. Great. Yeah, but then what'd you do? Like, that's my pet peeve. You're like, oh, have you heard the fucking new Joe Rogan podcast? They talked about this. I'm like, yeah, and what'd you do? And they're like, I'm going to listen to the next one. I'm like, fuck, dude. Like... So that's my challenge, is to do that, and I'm going to do it. And
yeah, let's get our heads out of the fucking internet. I'd love to hear you say that, and we'll close it up. Like,
about what?
Well, you changed my mind on just the idea of the internet and the way that I'm using it. When I was a kid, it meant everything to me that we didn't have cable TV.
Yeah.
And everything in the wrong way. I was on the wrong side of it. I wished that we had it the whole time. I was pissed at my parents, but I was outside my whole childhood. I was out in the yard. I was down the street. I was fucking skateboarding because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Now, it's just like smoking. When we were kids, if you wanted to smoke, you had to smoke a fucking cigarette that tasted like garbage. It was hard to fucking do. Well, now kids have cell phones that they can watch TV at fucking school.
Yeah.
And smoking tastes like toasted marshmallows.
Yeah.
And it's twice as addictive, 10 times as addictive. Let's get our heads out of the fucking internet. You said, I don't watch the internet. Cool.
This bugs people. Like, so I figured that out. Another thing skateboarding did for me and snowboarding was like, I didn't watch TV. And it was like I was so proud of that. People were like, you don't watch TV. Since June 1st, I don't watch internet anymore. I'll use a phone to communicate. I'll use certain things, but I'm dialing it back. But yeah, I actually don't watch the internet. I don't do it. And guess what? It's saved my fucking life. And I'm actually, Clayton and I are working on this. We're doing a series about our point of views on this kind of stuff to educate people and to be like, go ahead, dude, whack off on your fucking phone and eat at McDonald's all day long. I don't give a fuck. That's your fucking prerogative. It didn't work for me. And I would have what's considered an ADHD brain or anything like that. Fuck that. I have a fucking brain that is so fucking highly powerful that if I don't take care of what's coming in, I'm fucked. So I can't sit there and watch, whatever fucking shit I end up doing when I'm watching that shit. It's really actually good. I watch the benefits in my life so the bad news is, internet for me, unconscious, bad fucking news. The good news is, it takes a fucking day to get better. A day. Turn the fucking shit off. So I don't know, are we done or what?
We're done, man.
Okay. Sweet One Wheel.
Thanks for doing
new
this.
Nickname.
Oh,
fucking fuck. One Wheel Erik, dude.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. It's great. Fucking One Wheel. My favorite.
Dude, you have no idea, dude. This is so going to stick. One Wheel.
Why did I admit that shit? No, I was saying it sucks.
Anyway, dude. All right.
Listen to the Kearns podcast. Okay. So now here's a short clip from Sean's show, the Kearns Cast. Again, you can get it on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you get your podcasts, or you can just go directly to the show's webpage, which is kearnscast.com.
I got hurt in Utah. I fell off this roof trying to do like a roof transfer thing, and I hit the ground. Like I landed on dry cement from like really high up, and I exploded my foot. I landed, and I was like, sweet. No pressure. I'm fucking hurt. You know what I mean?
I can't do anything.
Like I can't do anything. So it's just so weird to be like, I guess the pain hasn't really set in yet, and you don't really know what you did, but you do know something's wrong because it's just you know a difference between like I twisted my ankle and like I broke my leg,
Yeah.
Or like I got a hot pocket on my ankle. I'll walk this out in 15 minutes. Or like I actually got to go to the doctor or the hospital, But it's just crazy to be like, come off the thing, land, slam, take this intense pain to my foot and shatter these bones in my foot and arch, and be like stoked for a minute. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm off the hook. Like, I don't gotta get in these situations anymore because I physically can't,
Yeah.
And then I was like, but I can't say that. I'm the shakedown guy that says I don't think like that.
Yeah. It says that right at the beginning of my part. It says, this is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
Yeah. So
it's like, is this how we do it? Like, fuck, I don't know. I'm like 10 years older than that now or more,
Yeah.
Maybe 15. I don't know. Like it's pretty hard to, this is how we do it at that point. So that was just kind of like, that was like a new thing. Like I did try to kick out that, like, no, I'm good. And then from there, it was just, this all happens so fast. Like in a few seconds, you have all these realizations and stuff like that. And then sure enough, like the pain starts hurting. You forgot all about that. And you're just like off at the hospital trying to get your boot off without screaming,
Yeah.
But from that, it turned into, I had to do a lot of rehab for that. And my foot was broken this way that I couldn't get surgery on it. So it just took a lot of rehab and being older and stuff like that, and no surgical options, and just a weird placement on the bone break and the pieces that it was in. That happened early in the winter, so I spent the rest of the winter kind of rehabbing it. And then I remember I came up to Whistler just to do my kind of thing, go snowmobile and try to ride some last minute powder while the snow was soft. My foot still hurt. I feel like I should have just been way further along, so it didn't make any sense that I was still hurting,
Yeah.
So I went back to a different doctor, like just a totally separate guy, and he found out that I still had a broken bone on a different part of my foot that the doctors missed because they were so concerned with this one part that I broke, even though I was like, that part doesn't hurt, this other part hurts. Like, okay, well, we don't see anything. So they missed this thing called a Jones fracture, which is apparently something that does actually get misdiagnosed.
Uh-huh.
So then I had to go back in a cast after I'd been out. So I did imagine you do all this rehab, get strong. You're actually kind of pushing around, riding bikes. I surfed a bit, skating. It hurt, but I could do all these things. And now I'm back in a fucking cast.
Like basically start back
start
to the
over,
front.
But now put this bone stimulator on your foot because it's been so long that this thing's not been grown in that it needs like this special bone stimulator to hopefully make it grow. And if not, it's like a surgical thing. So while I was doing that, I did all that like stem cell shit. So between that, going back in the cast and doing like the bone stimulator, that bone actually healed itself. So I was like, okay, sweet, I'm good. So now it's like the end of summer pretty much. I've been like working on this thing for 9 months to get re-upped. and I'm coming in to film this 32 video, which was 32's first full-length snowboard film with their whole team, like, and it was their 20-year anniversary as a brand, so it was a big deal. And I'd been on 32 for a long time, and they supported me like for quite a few many years, especially after all like the whole falling out with Burton and Forum and all that stuff. So it was important for me to get good footage for this video, you know. And so, but I'm coming off this injury, and so all that stuff I did before was just like the physical aspect of getting better. I didn't know that like my head was totally fucked from that whole thing until I got in front of the camera the first day to start filming, and I had like basically like not a panic attack, but I just like shut down. It was like a fight or freeze, and I totally went into freeze and I couldn't perform. It wasn't the day I was filming, but it was the night before, because I'd been out there kind of working on this spot, building up, getting it ready for the next day. And so I finally knew it was on, because I knew the spot was all ready to go, because it's kind of like a big build on this big reservoir spillway thing. And I was just like, I can't do it. You know, I was like, I know that's on deck tomorrow. And I was like, I just can't go. I'm like seriously like on the floor, curled up in a ball, like done, you know, like crying, no confidence. I can't do this. Don't want to do this. It just popped up out of nowhere. This whole time I'm like sitting here like rehabbing my fucking face off. Yeah. Go. Got to get back in the game, like totally motivated to get back in the game and get this fixed. And the whole time this thing was there that I didn't even know about, you know?
Like the psychosomatic aspects of the injury or whatever.
Yeah. Because I spent a few days out at that spot building it, because it was like kind of like a big feature-based spot that needed like a big tranny at the bottom, and it had a big jump for the takeoff, so it was like a step up to the top of a spillway with like a big cement bank. So it was like basically step up to like a big lip trick and then ride down like 20 or 30 feet of concrete to like a snow tranny, you know. And there was a possibility that I could potentially like fuck up and go too far or get locked in on the thing and outgo my tranny that I built and land on dry cement, which is essentially what I got hurt with in the first place. Like I landed from really high on dry cement. Yeah. So I'm out there building that thing for 2 or 3 days. One day, the first day, Seth Hewitt came and helped me build it. And so I was there with him just shooting the shit. But then the next 2 days I was out there by myself building it. So I'm like just staring at this thing by myself, like fucking tripping myself out.
Yeah.
But the feelings were normal, because I always get like a little edgy when I'm setting stuff up, because you start thinking about how you're going to go at it, you know? So it wasn't like a super red flag, but it's like, yeah, I'm getting like elevated, like as this thing comes together and realizing what it's going to actually take, because it's one thing to envision it, but it's another thing to actually put it together and do it, you know. And as it gets shaped up, that vision can become more of a reality or less of a reality, you know. So then I just had that full breakdown, and I was like home, like my wife Roberta was there, and she was just like talking me to like, I know you can do it, like basically gave me this like confidence boost, somehow just like talked me into it, you know, because I was like ready to just like step off completely, you know. And I kind of just went out there on like the fact of like, she told me I can do it, so I trust her, so I guess I'll go try it, you know. None of it was me that felt like it could be done. It was just on like, I've done this type of stuff before, and she says I can do it, so I'll go try it. And she was like, just had a strong conviction about it, the way she told it to me, because she saw how bad I was hurting, you know. Yeah. Crazy. So I ended up getting through that. Got a few things out there, and that obviously helped. But in the mix of all that set me on to seeking help, like actual real like psychological help for that, you know. Because I was like, I just can't do that, you know.
Well, the thing I want to interject too is like, I don't think a lot of people understand this, but we kind of touched on this earlier. You're the type of guy who doesn't like to get paid for doing nothing. Right. Like you're not a lazy guy. And so then you've got like, now you're like a year deep of injury, and you got this sponsor that has been super cool and supportive of you. So I know you, the kind of person you're like, I owe these fucking guys, like I got to pop this off. I want to make these guys stoked. Totally. And then, so then not only are you sitting there having this like breakdown thing or whatever you want to call it, and then you go into this dark place, and it's like there's all this other pressure that you're putting on yourself that's just brutal. So it's not only are you like, I'm having this PTSD, but there's this external story you're telling yourself, and I call that like a weakened state. Like when a person's in a weakened state, and a lot of people don't understand, like when a person's in a weakened state, you got to kind of be delicate around them and not tell them what to do, because they're already doing such a damage job on themselves. And like Roberta stepping in and being like, you can do this, and you trusting her, like that's, at some points I've needed that. I've actually needed people to be like there's this big thing in therapy about don't ever tell your client this and that, but there's sometimes I've been so hurting where I've actually, it's been really helpful when someone else has gone like, dude, you got this, like you can do this. And that's all I've had to go on. Like, so when you just said that, I was like, yeah, like I'm going to go on this because my wife told me she believes I can do this. Yeah. But then I'm stoked you went and we're like, okay, I still got to do some work around this. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that totally makes sense, what you're saying. It's like, it's just a fucked up place to end up in, you know what I mean?
The worst.
To like go from like being like thinking you're like the hardest motherfucker to like shaking in a corner like I can't fucking snowboard anymore. Like this thing that you think is like, you know, if you've been doing professionally and on this high level for so long, it should just be second nature, but that just goes to show like how much of it is like a mental thing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I did seek out like psychological help, and I talked to this guy Alan Goldberg, and I did a lot of sessions with him via Skype. He was a sports psychologist. I basically found him Roberta I think found him just by looking on the internet, like sports psychologists that you can talk to over the internet or something like that. Or I don't know. I actually don't know how she found him, but she did. And then I saw he wrote a book, and I immediately downloaded the book, and I'm like trying to read it. It wasn't super relevant to my situation because it was one of his older books and stuff. And then she found out that I could get on Skype with him. So now here I am doing like Skype phone calls with this guy that's out on the East Coast, super cool guy, like totally understood my whole deal and stuff, doesn't really know anything about snowboarding, but was like listened to everything I had to say about it and did a bunch of stuff with me to help me get through. It's like that's kind of a long story there, like all the stuff that I did in therapy with him, but essentially like he got me through. He made it so that I could relive that experience of getting hurt off the roof from a safe place and realize that I'm okay. And it sucked and it hurts and my foot hurts when I walk now, and that's lame, but I'm okay. Like he kept telling me, you're okay, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And it took a while for me to realize I was okay, you know, especially because like it's one thing to tell yourself you're okay, and then you get up from sitting down for 5 minutes and you got to limp for 10 minutes till, you know, and you sit down for another 5. It's like constantly there, you know? So it's kind of hard to forget about. So it was a long process working with him on all that stuff, but I feel like I did get through it. Like in the beginning, I couldn't even like tell him the story of what happened without crying into the laptop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it's weird. I mean, and for anybody who doesn't know who's listening to this, like I love digging into the human psyche, and it's funny. Like so many times our bodies will be taking care of us and we don't even know it. So like the fact that you're like hurled up in a fetal position crying in this or whatever before you're supposed to shoot that is actually, this is messed up, but your body's actually taking care of you and saying, we ain't doing this. There's dry concrete out there, and the last time you land, you know what I mean? So it's like, so the problem I think a lot of the time with this stuff is a lot of people go to doctors and they get handed a prescription and they don't stay in the discomfort long enough to actually figure out what's going on, which is what you did. And we just had a talk the other day about some people we know who are going through this stuff, ex-snowboarder / skateboarder, whatever types, and they basically are like having this massive anxiety and everything. And basically the doctors, I mean, I think even that first psychologist you went to was offering you pills. It's like, have some anxiety.
Yeah, he's like, I diagnose you with like a mild anxiety, and if you want something for it, I can hook you up. But that was kind of like, that was like the final diagnosis. It wasn't any, like he didn't dig deep or anything like Alan and try to get to the root of it or the bottom of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to too. A lot of people just, and you know, this isn't to bag on Western medicine and all that stuff, but it's like, it's really is easy just for people to go, okay, like have this pill. Except my belief is that when we have depression or we have anxiety, it's our bodies are trying to tell us something, and something's up, and you need to do things differently. For sure. And if you take the pill, And don't get me wrong, like sometimes people are like, some of those drugs actually really work. Like some of that stuff works for some people and everybody's different. But I think there's a large, like way, like I'm going to say upwards of 90% plus people are prescribed psychiatric drugs and SSRIs, they're called. And basically people get prescribed those and then they get comfortable and then they never stay uncomfortable long enough to go do the work, where they end up calling a guy Goldberg and speaking into a Skype because you didn't do any SSRIs. No. You actually worked through it with someone. And the thing is that you were willing to do the work, which what I've learned is you got to do the work. And there's lots of really good resources out there, but definitely try and do all that before you go stuffing mitts full of pills in your mouth, because trust me, if you're worried about the money, that'll end up costing you a lot more money in the long run if you just basically go into a comatose, depressed state for 5 years. You know, it's like, it seems like a good idea when you're hurting, but in the long run, it's not necessarily always the best route.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's understandable that how easy it is to go that pill route, because you are in that weakened state, like you're saying, and it doesn't feel good to be in this like anxiety mode where you're heightened and you're just, it doesn't feel good. So like you want to get out of it. So a pill's an easy out, you know, and it's actually, you got to, what I did at least, like I basically had to go relive this thing over and over to get through it. So that doesn't feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
and it's just like, it's hard to like want to do that, you know? I mean, who knows? I guess I didn't really think about a pill. I just like, and the fact that I did it over Skype at first with Alan, like maybe if I had to just like went to like my local doctor and they said, well, dude, just fucking pop this pill and like call me over the weekend, you know, I could have maybe fallen into that, but I got lucky and Roberta found that guy and I had a session with him and I was like, hey, that was lame, like sitting there crying into the laptop, but I'll keep doing that because why not? You know, it's not going to make it worse. You know, I'm already like defeated basically. So I'll stick to that and go. And it took a long time, but I got through it, you know?
Yeah. And you understand it now, and you understand what it is, and you understand that your body was telling you no because it was trying to protect yourself and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a PTSD thing, you know, I explained it to him and he's just like, yeah, you're having post-traumatic stress disorder from this event. And you could have got it the first time you ever got hurt. And you just happen to get it now. It's different for everybody, you know? It's not, you can't say that like you've got this many slams or this many concussions before you're hit with PTSD. It's just like you could go like fall on the ice skating and you're like, fuck it, I'm never ice skating again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that I've kind of lived through this, I can see situations, I think, of why a guy maybe that I thought was a really good snowboarder and kind of just disappeared, or kind of saw him like maybe getting angry or frustrated easy and just not having fun, and then suddenly he wasn't a pro snowboarder anymore when you knew he was still good and could do this shit, but he just had to step off for whatever reason. I think that comes up a lot for these guys, because you can't just get hurt over and over and over and do all these stunts and put yourself in high anxiety situations and not eventually have this happen to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's why you either stop snowboarding because you're having these feelings, or you're too hurt to continue snowboarding because you got like seriously fucked up, or you just can't afford it because your sponsors dropped you or something. Otherwise, why stop? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a sick gig, you know? So it's like, I've got sponsors that are still paying me. I did the physical therapy side and got that back on track so I could physically do it, but I couldn't do that other part, you know what I mean? So I could have like walked away on that account, but kind of stuck it out and sorted it through. So I think a lot of people go through this shit.
FNRad shoutouts this week to Van Snowboarding Boots, Dakine, Anon, The Boardroom, Tribute Board Shop, Nelson, BC, Grouse Mountain, which is the peak of Vancouver, Crow's Nest Barbershop, and of course, Wired Snowboards. I'm doing this as a draw. This is how you win. I'm not doing any advertising right now on Facebook or Instagram. I'm just trying to figure shit out. And I've got 1,000 of you that still listen to the show if I don't put it out on Facebook, Instagram. And I consider you guys my core guys. You are the fucking people that make this show happen. So send $10, either PayPal, Venmo, e-transfer, however, to FNRadpodcast@hotmail.com. $10 gets you one entry into a draw. Buy as many as you want, and then I'll contact the winner. Just, I don't know, I guess I can email you or whatever. I'm not sure. But I'll announce it on the show as well, whoever wins. So it could take forever for this to fill up, or it might fill up tomorrow. I don't know. And I'm going to draw for a wired board. You get to choose the shape and the size from the wired boards they make, and then they'll put whatever graphic you want on the top sheet. And I know from the last time the guy won, they just put a Slayer graphic on there, and not gonna say whether they did or didn't ask for permission, but you could basically put anything you fucking want on a board. And trust me, Rob's gonna work really hard with you to make sure the graphic pops and looks really fucking good and is designed well. So yeah, all right, love you guys, thanks for listening, hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back at some point before the season starts to do some more fun shit, I hope. The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is brought to you by SIA Productions. Peace.